table. Today we'd like to talk about the Small Partnership and Collaboration Forum that we held in our WIN region in WA, in Southern Perth and Peel. I'm Eliza Mitchell, the WIN business partner for that region, and this is Irene Mooney, our chair of our reference group, who was also the lead agent for the Small Provider and Collaboration Forum. The Small Provider and Collaboration Forum was born out of feedback from small providers in regional areas within our catchment, and also small providers in some of our metropolitan areas. And it came about because the whole idea of collaboration and partnering as a small provider, and what their value was within the community as a small provider, was a bit of an unknown. It sort of became a conversation about how do we do it, where do we go to find the information, what might a partnership look like, should we go to the big guys and just let them have us? You know, it was really about a whole lot of questioning and misinformation, and strategically what their sustainability and income generation and business models could look like. So as a reference group, we had a discussion about that, and Irene will tell you pretty much how it came about and what happened.
Thanks, Eliza. I think our main focus for the whole program and the day was around making sure that whoever came to the day went away knowing that they had information and knowledge about collaborations and partnerships, and they could make some informed decisions strategically about whether they did or they didn't want to follow down that track. To make that happen, we made it only open to small providers with less than 100 FTE, and only to board members and the CEOs. We didn't want people who weren't the decision makers or the strategic thinkers in the room. We ran the day where we invited 3 industry representatives, one from New South Wales, which is Peter McCloskey from who's now started up the Blue Sky Group, Philip Schmel from Barossa Valley, and Rachel Beach from Tasmania. Those 3 industry presenters were given 20 minutes each to present how they'd gone about collaborating and partnering in their own areas. And those are very different stories. I think Peter in the Barossa Valley, Philip in the Barossa Valley, his journey was over 6 years, and they're still not quite there, and there were 5 groups came together. Whereas Peter's was more of a geographic difference and a name branding, and Rachel's was out of her organising having clinical skills, whereas the other had the business skills, and them coming together because they realised one had the other. And so that was a great partnership as well. So it was about them telling those stories, having a fantastic facilitator in Michael Goldsworthy, who is well known around Australia for working with not-for-profits, rural, small providers across aged care, disability and the community sector. Very passionate, very committed, very punchy, didn't hold any bars. And part of that day was also to dispel that myth that a lot of those small providers have been told through lots of avenues that either you get big or you get out. And what we wanted to let them know is that there was other options there, and they could still remain, but they needed to think smarter about how they did that. So hence Michael Goldsworthy was fantastic for that. We also ran the afternoon on a workshop basis, so people identified in the morning what were the strategic goals and issues, and then they workshopped those at the table. One of the things that was really lovely to see is board members who I think had been coerced to get there through their CEOs and Eliza and whatever else, and sort of there in the morning a bit, why are we here? We're fantastic anyway, and what's this going to tell me? To at the workshop tables going and jumping out against, right, we've got to do this, let's set that meeting up and talk about. That was really, for me, it didn't matter what else we got back as far as feedback, that told me that we'd hit the mark, that people really wanted to know not what you should do or who you should do, but a bit of a wake-up call, and I think your term is quite good.
A call to action.
Yeah.
It was really, that was what it was based on. It was to dispel any myths about the fact that because you're small you didn't have value, but it was also about, well, okay, we recognise we're small, we recognise we're in the community, we recognise we've got a service, but how then, under this new reform and under the new agenda of CDC, how do we really look at what our business model looks like, what our partnering and consumer opportunities might be, and how are we going to be the educator within our community and therefore the go-to. And that was really what we were trying to generate, a little bit more confidence in the small providers and a little bit more understanding that you're not out there on your own, that there's a lot of opportunities there, but it was about how do those boards start to think strategically whether it is for them or it isn't for them, but in an informed way, in a way that allowed them to understand, come together and go away with a little bit more of a capacity to think about those opportunities. And from the day, what we developed was a suite of resources, information, presentations, and an actual process of how to partner and amalgamate from Michael Goldsworthy. So, and they're readily available on the Community Services and Health Industry Skills site under the WIN project banner. So, any questions?
What I found, the forum basically, instead of actually having to make a meeting with another provider to discuss the elephant in the room, that we were all in the room anyway, so the conversations flowed pretty freely. It wasn't as if somebody had to instigate a meeting and it was a formal discussion. It was pretty informal, so therefore the words flowed, the ideas flowed, and Michael Goldsworthy set the pace, and the concept came from you girls, and it was delivered in a safe way for us to all talk about the collaboration word.
Yeah, well, we were quite strict about the attendance. We did say that the larger providers or government or anyone who was not actually a small provider in the community or aged care services wasn't able to attend, because we wanted people to have exactly what you're saying, Al, the opportunity to expose themselves, to say, we've never thought about this stuff, we need some answers here. And so, as you say, it really...
Yeah, and they would understand each other's debate in that forum as well. We had 55 attendees for the day from 30 different organisations, so there's a good representation there. And all of the attendees bar one did an evaluation for us, and we're just about to send out another evaluation as well, just to do that post-thinking. We know that there are 4 people from the day that are looking at collaborating and doing partnerships as a result, so that's pretty good. And one was definitely, we'd had a pre-meeting about strategy talks, and they were definitely not the committee. We're not going to be talking to our other provider in the town about anything. Then they went to the collaboration forum, and the committee went straight back and made an appointment to start that meeting, because they realised they were doing themselves a disservice by not actually at least having a conversation.
Yeah, just having a conversation.
So for us, that's not bad actually. It's sort of, but it does also tell us there's probably a need for more of that sort of conversation, particularly for boards, because they actually don't get opportunities very often to have that strategic, robust discussion about the what ifs, the blue sky thinking stuff. It's a pretty nuts and bolts in a tight timeline, so that's probably another thing we can sort of take away from it as well. Questions, anyone? Look at the website though, because there's a lot of information there, and the stuff that Michael Goldsworthy's given us access to is fantastic. And that in itself, the suite of information there is now available on a national level. So from a small one-day forum, there's a wealth of information that can be shared through to others as well.
Can there be another one? Are you able to have the funds to get together again once we've all...
Now that, my dear, is the $50,000 question.
And it's about that much. No,
Yeah, I was going to say.
We certainly, as part of the WIN extension, we're looking at the sustainability and the focus of the WIN reference group. And part of that is about how do we expand and extend on the regional projects that we've delivered on so far, and also what are some of the other priorities that we might look towards.
Yeah.
So that's sort of watch this space, because Everyone's waiting for the budget in May because we don't know where money's going to be allocated, and depending on where, like to what government services and to what purpose, will depend on how we approach the regional projects and how we sustain that.
One day wasn't enough. I think it would be healthy to have three. The beginning was the start of the conversation, the middle bit as to who's actually started to talk, and then the end about how successful this talk has been to encourage the ones who are still looking on and waiting for that tried and tested principle to come to fruition. I think everyone should be moving in that role.
Yeah.
But I've attended that first session, thought about it, thought wouldn't it be great, but if I'm seeing other people are doing it, it'll give me the confidence to move to the next step, and I think another session will actually cement that in. So there you go, I've got you another lot of fun.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you.